Hey, what is going on, everyone? That was probably really loud until I get this audio fixed. Apologies. Apologies for that. But welcome, everybody. Welcome to the True Crime Talk Show, the one and only. My name's Brendan, and Malia should be here any minute, any second, just around the corner. And we will get into the the additional technology side of things. So I wanted to talk about the concept of the video and why I don't believe it is possible. It could be proven as untrue without even digging into the technology. All right. But then when you include the technology into it, you'll realize that, like, whoa, there is no way it could be true. So not only that, but I want to be able to also talk about the technology aspects with the Thought Riot community and explaining, like, I feel like with just a little bit of information on kind of how these technology systems work, we are more well equipped to understand some of the evidence coming out of some of these cases. So overall, I think having a little bit of knowledge into the technology side of things can help everybody when we're looking at these cases. Because honestly, right now, I feel like with the few cases that I've seen that are like really questionable, a lot of times it tends to be the technology stuff that has holes in it, or the DNA. I swear, it's always technology or DNA, one of those two. But welcome, everybody. I was able to connect our Twitter. I don't know if we are actually live on Twitter or not. I'll probably check it after to see if that is even a thing, or if any of you guys are on here.
That's cool.
If any of you guys are on here, double check Twitter for us and see if it's showing on Twitter. I don't have my other computer pulled up right now. One of the other 10 computers.
I can look.
I should. Actually, I got one right here. The gaming computer. All right. But yeah, hopefully we are live on Twitter. I guess I'll just let you do it. But welcome, everybody, to the True Crime Talk Show, brought to you by Thought Riot Podcast. Make sure you check out all of our podcast places on all of the podcast platforms. We are everywhere on everything all at once, omnipresent. All right. And the reason why is because we are all Thought Riot podcasts. We aren't successful because of Malia or myself. We are successful because we are proactively learning from each other together. And I truly believe that in my overly to a fault optimistic self, that humans are incredible, and we're only that much more incredible every additional human we have working together. And I've learned more in the short time we've been doing this than I think I could say that I've learned in the last 10 or 15 years. And it's literally all because of you guys. The cases that I look into and the topics that I cover are all because of you guys. The questions that we answer are all because of you guys. We appreciate all of you, every single one of you. And, let's keep doing it, because we are all Thought Riot Podcast, every single one of you. So are we live?
Yep. On Twitter.
Awesome. All right. Well, if you're on Twitter, hello, and welcome. This is number 1 for being on Twitter. I thought I was only allowed to use the coding for like 3 or 4 destinations or something like that. But okay, well, we'll just max it out, see how many destinations we can stream to simultaneously. But we just covered our video talking about this very specific topic of Bryan Kohberger and the rumor. And I'm saying rumor because I can't find evidence of it. So that's the only reason I would use such a subjective word like rumor, right? Because we say this every time. I have no clue if Bryan Kohberger's guilty. I have no clue if he's innocent. I'm not willing to hang my hat on something that I don't have the full picture of. So right now, our number one goal is really just looking into the evidence and some of the concerns that we have with the investigation. Well, one of the concerns that was brought to our attention by the Thought Riot community was the video that you brought out. You brought up around the peeping Tom aspect and some of the red flags that come when you're a mass murderer, a serial killer. And do any of these align with some of the behaviors that we see in Bryan Kohberger? Well, we put that video out, and the most common comment we got, because we always get a ton of comments, I swear, our like and comment rate per video is insane. It's usually like 20%, which is unheard of. You're lucky to hit 10. So again, thank you guys. But the most common comment we got was he absolutely has red flags and he absolutely matches some of these character traits. And the reason why is because he broke into a peer's apartment and conned her into asking him to install security cameras, where he then stole her Wi-Fi password. I'm not making any of this up. He then stole her Wi-Fi password and proceeded to spy and stalk her. That is a lot of moving parts.
It's really an intense speculation, and that's really what it amounts
so
to.
Detailed, like
yeah, that's really what it amounts to, is speculation. And I find it really interesting. We see professionals out here doing interviews, speaking about it like it's fact, like professionals. And I don't know why they're doing that. Like, if you guys have some kind of proof of that, please allow everyone else to know, because as far as we can tell, there's nothing there.
I agreed. And that's one thing that we brought up yesterday. I'm going to keep bringing up. And honestly, if we have any experts watching us, they probably wouldn't be too happy with the comment. But look, we're going to keep it straight here. Always. I'm going to give it 100%, no matter what, no matter if the comment is liked or not. Right. Did I miss a spot shaving? I think I did. Jeez. So
it's really dark.
Well, it is. Jeez. So when it comes to experts, so an expert isn't an expert because they have a title. Okay. An expert isn't an expert because they've read enough books to meet the criteria to get a degree. An expert is an expert because they have enough knowledge to create processes to effectively manage any information and or situation where their expert testimony and or approach is needed, and is as reliable as we would see an expert's statement be. That is what makes an expert. How reliable your information is going to be. Because let's be real here. Anybody can come out and say they're an expert. You guys have no idea if I'm an expert in technology. None, zero, right? I could totally be making it up. And that's part of the reason why I always tell everyone, don't believe me. Just assume I'm full of it, right? Just assume everything that's coming out of my mouth is fake. And please use it as a carrot and go research it, right? I'm not ever going to give you false information knowingly, because I am absolutely terrified of karma, but I don't think anyone should believe me either. So when it comes to situations like this, I agree with you, 100% agree with you that, like, what is going on with these experts coming out with statements and testimony and uh evidentiary comments claiming that, oh, absolutely, I've been to this school for the last 10 years, I'm a doctorate in this, I'm this and this, that and that, and here and the other. And what I say is this is true, with nothing backing their statement. Like, nothing. It's completely hanging their hat on a title. I don't know if you guys have ever played video games, but like when you're in a video game, you can just like change out your title. That's how it makes me feel like when I'm watching some of these experts sometimes, like the uh the cannibalism expert, the car FBI expert, this FBI expert saying this is absolutely progression. This absolutely shows that Bryan Kohberger is a serial or mass murderer.
Yeah, so the argument I heard was because the whole point of the Peeping Tom video was that I personally can't find any evidence of a pattern of escalation within Bryan Kohberger's past. I don't see it. There's no factual evidence to prove that. Now, if some of these rumors turn out to be true, then it's a different story. But so far, the worst things we've heard about Bryan Kohberger are all speculative and have nothing factual backing them. And I hear them argued by many people who believe he is guilty, and they say it like it's completely factual,
Yeah.
like they know he did these things for a fact. And I don't understand that.
You
I
know,
don't know how they can say that. I don't know why they believe that, unless you just assume everything you read on an article is real, which I don't. I look for a source. I look for something that backs it.
I
And
don't.
none of those theories and speculations on his past transgressions, like the security camera thing, none of them have anything.
Agreed. I agree with you. And I also agree that everyone should be looking at every situation, trying to find the flaws in these situations, myself included. And I got to be honest, like, we're all humans. We all have emotions. We all have our own subjectivity. We all have our own pasts and topics that are going to bring more emotion out of us than they will in other situations. So, I find in a lot of the cases that have a high likelihood of being relatable to the general masses of the citizens of the US or world or in general, right? And what I mean by that is these were four children essentially, right? They had just left the home within the last few years, going to college, about to become a functioning adult, completely separated, and more than likely right at that step where they're going to separate their life more from their parents' lives, right? So I think anybody out there that has a child can relate to that because of the feelings that come with having a child. It doesn't matter what age your child is at. You're going to feel some relation there. You're going to feel some empathy for these parents, which automatically make it very hard to take a step back and think in all situations. Wait, hold on. I cannot let my emotions relate to the situation because I want to stay objective. I want to stay objective because it's important to me to find out who the actual suspect is in this situation. That is a very hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to do.
It is hard.
So I think that's why a lot of times a lot of these stories get so far.
I think so. I think it appeals to people's emotions and feelings. Yeah. I think that's an issue with a lot of this case, to be honest, is
I
people
agree.
people are stuck in the emotion behind all of it, because it is literally one of the most tragic cases of our time. Um, it's a big deal. What happened to these young people is absolutely unimaginable. Like, and
Agreed.
what their parents have to be going through, it's like unheard of. in today's day and age. Like, we don't hear about crimes like this to this magnitude, like with random people. You
I
know what I mean? Like, just
I
a
agree.
random event like this doesn't happen very often with that many people in a home, young people. Like, you hear about overdoses. You hear about, I mean, I've seen quite a bit of family murders in the past few years
I mean, that's the
since
most
COVID.
common kind normally when somebody is part of a family unit. And honestly, I go so far, and we'll get back to the technology stuff, you guys. We will get back to it. I know we're going on, a curveball here. I would go so far as to say that the way that this case has been presented in the mainstream, I almost feel like people feel so much empathy for the situation and the families that they are scared to come out and say, hmm, there might be a possibility Bryan Kohberger isn't the one. Because that is such a scary situation. Like, that is a very scary thing. If there unquestionably, undoubtedly, the evidence proves that Bryan Kohberger is not the guy.
Well, I think it's more than that. I think for people who truly believe he's guilty, they think there's too many, like, for instance, in the Delphi case, I just heard an expert who's supposedly an expert in cults say, well, the alternate explanation to Richard Allen is too complicated. There's too many, the whole cult angle is too complicated,
Oh,
so
I
it
don't know
doesn't
about
make sense.
that.
And I'm dumbing it down. I'm not saying it to the extent that he did, but that's essentially what he means, is that, like, to get from this to this to this, that's too many extra steps. It's too many,
Well, that guy
it's too
sounds like
many
he has a red
stretches and
flag of a
reaches.
serial killer.
I have never agreed with a word this man has said,
I
okay?
don't even know who it
But
is,
I
but,
don't
like,
know
to
who he is
separate
either, but I've
themselves,
heard him talk a few times, and I just don't agree with anything he says.
he
But
separates himself with, like, a such level of intelligence. He's trying to say that, like, "Oh, all the knowledge I have is, like, so much knowledge that, the average person wouldn't be able to understand what we're talking about. That's absurd. Get out of here. Come on."
what?
That's literally what you're saying.
He's just saying it's too many extra things, like, you have to take too many reaches to make that theory work. That it's improbable, because the simplest answer is usually the right answer.
Okay,
That kind of thinking is what I think
okay, so I
most
took that
people.
differently based on what you were saying.
Yeah, that was a
So he's an
miscommunication.
expert of what?
Cults.
Okay,
So
okay.
he didn't, when the memorandum came out in the Delphi case, he didn't believe it at all. He said, "No way, there's no cult here.
Yeah.
Not possible." And he was wrong. I think he is wrong, and I think he's slowly getting proven wrong, and he's changing his tune a little bit, but he still thinks that the alternate explanation, like, he thinks it's possible that these girls were killed and that it was covered up to look like a cult sacrifice.
Dude, what? That is so much more
I
unlikely.
agree.
Who in
But
their right mind is going to be a killer in that way? And they're like, aha, I got an awesome idea. Let's make this look like a cult sacrifice.
no, usually that's a signature of a serial killer,
Right.
A, or
Correct.
B, it's actually a ritual sacrifice.
Correct, dude. That is so
It's
much more
people to
likely.
Yeah, it's people toying with the cops, or it's like a signature, or it's an actual
Correct. All the
sacrifice.
normal things that we see in serial based
Like,
killers
in the
or
Jeanette De Palma case, that was not somebody covering it up to look like that. That was people, that was rumors. That was
correct.
craziness.
Yep.
That was people seeing things that weren't there because they were so weirded out. I don't know. It was a weird situation. So, like, any case we've seen where there's been rumors of a cult, it's been humans' own, like, imagination and faults that have caused them to think that. In the Delphi case, there's too much there, I believe, for it to be something like that, where it's just imaginations running wild and fears and all of that.
Oh, for
But
sure. Yeah,
but
all the only piece of evidence you need to have to prove otherwise is one single piece of evidence. You need to look at the guards that were hired to protect Richard Allen. I don't want to get too far down the Delphi.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it back.
Yeah, I got you, but
But
sometimes we got to go back and forth and all over. So,
let me
but the
finish.
one piece of evidence that proves is just looking at the security guard. That is enough for anybody.
Huh?
That is enough proof to prove that there is validity in the Odinist theory, is just looking at the security guard.
You mean the prison guard?
The prison guard.
Okay.
So the Odinist theory came out, and then the patches came out. It wasn't opposite. It wasn't, oh, we see patches, let's use that as a defense angle. It was, no, Odinism, and then patches, and then told to stop watching the patches, so he gets a tattoo. If that's not a certain level of commitment, I mean, like, you guys.
Yeah, that guy, he's totally eating his words, because his original statements now have been proven to be completely false.
Right.
Anyway, I think that is the trap that a lot of people fall into in thinking about a case like this, is like, well, if it's not what I think it is, which is really just a face value, surface level understanding, because I feel like if anybody were to dig deeper, they would see, there's problems. I still think he's guilty, but I think there's some problems here, because things are not adding up in some ways. So I think most people would say that. I mean, even Chris McDonough has said that there's problems. Like there are.
What, in the Idaho 4
Yeah,
case?
in the Idaho 4 case, which is what we're talking about.
Well, I mean, we were just talking about
I
Delphi.
only use that as an example to go back to the Idaho 4
I get
case.
it. I just want to clarify, because if I misunderstood you, then I'm assuming other people could too, when we're bouncing back and forth between cases like this. So before we move back to the Idaho 4 case, I do just want to make one interesting statement. So did you see Coffindaffer came out and made a pledge like, I sure hope that Richard Allen gets a fair trial? Insane. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't think I would see that at all.
Well, maybe she's not as delusional as we thought she was.
Right?
Well, that's good. I like that. Great. Go Coffindaffer.
Yep.
Telling it like it is.
Very rarely do you see her question.
You do.
The boys in blue.
She never questions them ever, I swear. I'm glad she is, though. It's so obvious and upfront in your face. How can you not? I
mean, the FBI is the one who came out with Odinist Theory 1. They were the very first ones, and then they were kicked off the case. So yeah, she's still supporting them, but you know, I would say, okay, I'll change what I'm saying. It's very rarely do we see her go against the mainstream narrative.
Yeah, right,
so,
right. Which the mainstream narrative is usually with the cops.
Yeah,
usually. But going back to what I was trying to use that example for, of the guy who's, you know, talking about the simplest answer is usually the right one. Like, if you have to take all these extra steps to make your theory fit, like, it's probably not a good theory.
That's not true.
That kind of idea is what I think a lot of people feel like. And I think that a lot of times that is true.
Oh,
but I do.
It's a logical fallacy. People think the simplest answer is usually the right one, because simple answers have happened in the past before. Therefore, it must continue to be right that the simple answer is most commonly the right one. However, when you're looking at a statistically improbable situation, you don't add a statistically probable equation to a statistically illogical situation. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
It's just very unlikely when you're already seeing statistical improbabilities that your number one go-to should not be, let me just give a blanket statement overlay that it must be the most likely situation. It's already an outlier here.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the Idaho 4 case and the Delphi case are major outliers. Like, come on.
Agreed.
But anyway, I think people fall into that trap thinking that's always it. And
I do.
And I think people don't like questioning their own reality. Like, if people have really strong confidence in the justice system and really trust cops and really trust our legal system, I think they have a hard time thinking there could be any other answer. Like, they just believe what the cops have said. Like, yes, they have evidence, or else Bryan Kohberger would not be arrested. But we're questioning the validity of that evidence. And
Yeah.
evidence does not always mean the person's guilty. They had evidence on Christopher Tapp. He couldn't be any more innocent.
Yeah.
He was
No,
not involved at all.
I hear you. I just think that while we're making assumptions that it has something to do with like personal bias and not wanting to be incorrect for a menu of reasons, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons.
I don't think that is the most likely reason that you see people come up with in their head. I think that more than likely what you would see is exactly what we saw in court, is exactly what we saw from Judge, is exactly what you see from people that leave comments all the time. The most commonly paired two are Bryan is guilty. You shouldn't be making these comments and assumptions and looking into the case in this way, because how dare you for the victims' families? So the most common thing I believe is that people are so empathetic to the situation because it has been blasted across media all over the world. And it's, I would say, when you're looking at world statistics, more often than not, people have kids, right? There is some sort of child adult relationship going on, whatever, parental relationship going on there. So there's going to be empathetic relatability going on there. And it feels the opposite of what empathy would be if you're agreeing that, hey, there is no suspect. These people aren't going to get justice. I think that's a much harder thing to do for
It's
people.
a harder pill to swallow,
Yeah.
that there's problems and they're not getting justice, and that there could still be a killer on the street.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is a hard pill to swallow, and that there's improper things going on in the justice system that you like to believe in.
Right. And I think these things are important to look at when you're trying to understand percentages of reason, and I think that it's important to look at these things as well, because these are the things that the defense and the prosecution is going to be looking into when they're picking their jury.
Yep.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Is how relatable is this person to the victims' families? We're seeing the victims' families brought up in almost every single hearing. That is not common. That is not a common thing.
No, it's really not. And I thought that was interesting. I saw somebody call out, I think it was actually Get a Clue, call out that Bill Thompson said that whole thing about appealing to raw emotion about what Jay said, and then turned around and started talking about the families.
Mm-hmm.
And he's appealing to raw emotion there.
I mean, yeah, he's just grandstanding. That's grandstanding 101.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But it is appealing to raw emotion.
Yeah.
No, you don't agree.
I just don't. So the way it's presented in that way, it's like appealing to raw emotion to sell his argument. And I don't think that's what it was about. I think that it was about keeping the prosecution's image to be in line with the victims' families.
Yeah, it
I
just
think
feels
there's a
like
very strong element of social control there if they can stay aligned with the families personally.
yeah, I think so too. But the thing is that family, the Gonzalez family that was sitting right there in the courtroom that did an interview that day, they don't talk good about the prosecution.
I agree.
They say they don't have good communication. I mean, there's been a lot of bad blood between the Gonzalez family and the prosecution. So
Is that also why we don't see the whole interview?
maybe.
Yeah, it very well could be.
Because there is no way they were only on camera for 2 minutes.
I agree.
There's
I
no
agree
way,
with you.
especially with the whole article that they wrote on the interview.
I agree. Talking about he's emotional because he's an amateur guitarist. That's so harsh. Uh, um, yes, no, I agree. Um, but yeah, okay. So going back to the original video, let's get into the technology aspects of things. Okay. So we took a poll before we did that video. I wanted to allow it enough time to simmer. And let me pull this up here so that we can see.
Is this a security camera poll?
Yes.
Nice. I saw it.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. So, personal poll with Idaho for relation. Hang on.
There you go.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Why is this not? There we go. All right. So, personal poll with Idaho for relation. Do you believe a wireless or wired security camera can be hacked? Hacked definition. And that's really important because I feel like hacked is one of these words that get thrown around a lot with the intention of causing fear to get something that the person that's talking about it wants. Okay. When they're trying to sell a bill, when they're trying to promote their political agenda, when they're trying to promote their criminal agenda, like prosecutorial agenda. Hacked gets thrown around a lot. Okay. So when we're talking about hacked with the definition, I meant assumed total control of the device as if it was in front of you and owned by you. Okay. That means that they are not just gaining access via visibility of the camera, but actual total control. Make changes to the profile, which is what would have had to happen if we're seriously talking about the possibility of there being stalking going on in this situation. And an overwhelming amount of people voted yes. Yes, they do believe that a wireless or wired security camera can be hacked in this way. And that's interesting. I didn't expect the percentage to be that high because there are so many variables when it comes to hacking in this way specifically. And we'll go through each of the possibilities and everything. But we have 3% that voted no, 6% saying there's more to it than that, 13% saying I don't know, but would love to know, and then 2% other. All right, so let's go into this. All right. So there is a lot to hacking in general, you guys. And I'm going to try. I wish I had a whiteboard here. That's what we need to install here is a whiteboard. You know the things I could do with a whiteboard? I am whiteboard obsessed. So the there are so many things that go into hacking. All right. And I'm going to give you an example. So when you look up online, okay, in forums like Reddit, for example, or other self-help forums, even in Apple's forums, you guys, because of the word hacking and how it's been used, everyone automatically assumes everything's being hacked, right? And this is just a brief breakdown, doesn't have anything to do with this very specific situation. I guess it does because it helps prove the point that it's pretty unlikely that this could even happen with what they're talking about. So, like, if this situation is real and people believe this was a leak of some kind, I mean, it's not real. It is impossible to be real. But when you're hacking an item or going back to what I was saying. So most people will have issues, software issues with something. Let's say you have a phone, right? And you're trying to log into something, or you're trying to open an app, and it'll open for 1 second and close, and then it'll open 1 second and close, and open 1 second and close. And a lot of people out there will be dealing with this for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then finally it'll get to a point where they're like, every time I try and make changes or open up anything important on this app, it closes. This must be hacked, right? When
Yeah, right.
I mean, there a lot of people feel like that, and that's okay, because a little bit of understanding goes a long way in technology. So, I think that more than likely, if I got given that situation, my immediate thought would be software issue, right? Because you're not even having the application open long enough to access anything. There would have to be somebody on the other end with some sort of control, and more than likely that's not happening. So when we're looking at this, right, there were key parts of the story that had to do with the security camera. The most important one is that she reached out to him to install security cameras. He got her Wi-Fi password. Therefore, he had full control over security cameras. I'm going to ignore the lack of benefit because security cameras go outside. Let's just stick to the technology side. With a Wi-Fi password, you are not going to be able to access security cameras. If they're anything that you buy at any normal store in the US, you will not be able to access those cameras.
So why?
Because they are connected to a closed network that communicates only with a very specific application. Most of it is not even for the reasons of safety, but it is mostly because a Ring camera, the company doesn't want it working with Arlo's company, that doesn't want it working with that CH something company. It's more about the environment. So if you're a camera owner, security camera owner, then they want you to have the entire Ring camera environment. It's not something you're just going to be able to communicate with on the back end. So that camera is set up with software. That software is coded a specific way to communicate directly with an application after you punch in your password and log in and everything. And then you put the serial number in there. It recognizes it as long as they're both on the same Wi-Fi, and then it connects it. Okay. So if somebody else on the outside, a lot of people think like Wi-Fi is this invisible string. Okay. There's this invisible string going from the router to this security camera. Because there is a string, it's easy to interfere with that string, split it into two, and like bring one end somewhere else. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. So a lot of people don't understand that hacking is gaining access to the applications that would allow control in that situation. And if you're functioning your security system through a telephone application, the only way that somebody else would have access to that application and be able to make changes to it and or stock in it is either A, they were invited, so there would be a second device which she would know about, or B, they completely spoofed the cell phone. And what I mean by completely spoof the cell phone is you can get a phone's serial number. And if you know what you're doing, you can change that serial number, then simultaneously copy a SIM card so that there are doubles of your phones. Very, very, very rarely happens. Very rarely happens, but it can happen. There's just not a lot of benefit in doing that unless you are targeted as being extremely rich.
So the only way to get access to somebody's camera is their account username and password.
Correct. So a hacking of a security camera would be hacking the login information for the application connected to that security camera. It's a brute force attack, and remember, I talked about this the other day, a brute force attack is essentially software that is at the login page and is trying every option possible. So if you use a 6-digit code, then it's going to be 00000 00001 00002 00, and it's just going to keep going until it gets the right one. That is a brute force attack when you're trying to hack these systems.
Yeah, I know they can use something like that to get weak. They can hack accounts using that have weak passwords, essentially.
Correct. And that's why
Two-step
two-step, like
and
I swear
strong
by
passwords.
two-step.
Yeah.
Two-step needs to be used in everything because that saves you from being hacked. If you have two-step verification turned on on all your things with a backup device, very rarely is someone going to be able to get into your account, you guys. Very, 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 very rare.
Yeah, so we don't know what this camera, the girl that this supposedly happened to, which we don't think is true. We don't know what she looks like. We don't know who she is. When you go digging into this, which was in the premiere that Brendan talked about, is that he searched and searched and searched and searched every search engine he could find and could not find a source for this information. Like there is nothing. There's not a police report. There's nothing. What?
So I meant to make this comment in the beginning and I apologize, you guys. So multiple of people complained yesterday about the ads being like a whole bunch of them. So my initial goal with the ads is I went in there to see what kind of changes I can make because I've never edited or adjusted how our ads are played. So something must have changed on the back end. But the most amount of time that I can create from one ad to the next is 30 minutes, you guys. That is the most that I can reduce it down to. It doesn't give me 60-minute option. I tried. And because I use an OBS, I don't have the option to control when they're inserted like other people that only stream on YouTube. We don't only stream on YouTube on our network. It goes to multiple sources. So 30 minutes is the absolute maximum I could take it. But let me know how your ads are going though. I'm hoping that it's less than last night. And I'm hoping, so I checked a little box that said, it will not show an ad until somebody has watched for 30 minutes. Now that's 30 minutes total, not 30 minutes linear. So unfortunately you can't like click out and click back in and then it restart again. But it says that it is per viewer that gets tracked. So it should not show you an ad until 30 minutes. And Michelle showing, am I the only one in here watching? On Twitter, yes. This is our first time in the Twitter space. We have, I think, a couple hundred or something. I don't know. My screen's too small. On YouTube. So if you want to join in the chat, hop over to YouTube. We are at Thought Riot Podcast. Now, one other thing.
But we can still see your messages on Twitter. Yeah.
We can. So one other thing I wanted to say too is, so we had some people, I guess, beefing last night in the chat. I'm not really sure. Oh, awesome. Well, welcome, Michelle. We're super stoked to have you here. But we had some people beefing last night. Let's just try to go out of our way to keep it respectful, you guys. I know it's fun to joke around and mess around online, but you got to remember that, you know, over a screen, it's really hard to understand how someone is taking something if they're taking it more serious than you. And I am the worst offender at that, like the worst, because I will literally always be joking. Like everything that comes out of my mouth is joking. I'm never serious. And sometimes people take it serious, you know? So let's just please be aware of that. So we don't have people feeling negatively. Some people reached out and had some issues and whatnot, and we really would love to keep it as not having to manage any chat or anything like that. But you know, we're a democracy here at Thought Riot Podcast. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
All
because
right, going
a lot of people like they don't have moderators constantly
that,
policing everything, and
you
we would
know,
like to keep it that way until we absolutely cannot anymore.
yeah, you know how many people reached out to us like through our email, took the time to go out of their way to write an email and say, please, please, please don't get moderators, you know? And we were going to get moderators a while back, you know, when we hit like 4 or 5,000 subs. But for whatever reason, I don't know if moderators are, I don't want to talk bad about any moderators. I just don't know why they would feel like it would be a
Well,
bad thing,
I
is
think
where I was going
I
with that.
think people like having the freedom to say what they want, and I've seen tons of
Yeah.
people come in our chat and complain that in other chats and various places that they got kicked for just disagreeing,
Sure.
and they felt like it
Yes,
wasn't
the Bryan
fair.
Kohberger case.
And I think moderators are a lot of them do a great job, but they get really invested in their community, and I think it starts to bias the way they moderate, and they will get rid of maybe comments and people that didn't necessarily deserve it just because they felt like it was disrespectful when the person never really said anything
Yeah.
that bad. Like it was just maybe like a very bluntly put opinion.
Yeah.
Um, but I think if we ever get moderators, the rule is going to be it's only when they are attacking somebody with really bad language.
Absolutely. If somebody is attacking another person, that would be the only thing, and we'll figure it out at that time for sure. You know, we have a specific way we are going to manage that. But okay, going back to the situation, I want to be extremely transparent and clear when we're talking about the Bryan Kohberger uh stalking a female neighbor. You know, I saw in some areas that they were talking that it was a female neighbor, and then in other ones it was a peer, but it was so long ago that
I heard
like,
it was like somebody who went to the same school as him.
well, I'm having a hard time understanding this also. And this is, I don't want to get too caught up in this, but um Bryan Kohberger wasn't in the area that long. It's not like he had been there for a year
He
or
moved
two
there in
years.
June.
I think he didn't get there until literally August. I need to triple check that. I think he went there in June to set his stuff up. We've had this conversation before, and I know we looked at it then. I just can't remember when it exactly was. But like, number one, I've had a hard time understanding the stalking element just because the amount of time that he was there is pretty unlikely from past historic evidence talking about stalking and the amount of time you would need for the escalation to happen. And this is another situation where, like, what he got there in August, July, June, whatever, right? Less than 6 months. They're less than 6 months, absolutely. And we're talking about in the summertime, he was able to stalk a woman and build enough of a relationship between her to have her feel comfortable saying, "Oh yeah, you know, let's come over and install these cameras." I'm just having a hard time, having a very hard time understanding the relationship aspects of it and how that would work. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it in
Every
uh
article says something different. I literally Googled it. This article says between June and August. Some say August, some say
I'm telling
June.
you, I think it's August.
Dude, there's no
I think he went out there in June to set up his move, is what I heard. And then in August, he effectively moved in, like permanent. But I could be wrong. I'm not betting my entire hand on that, you guys. This is just what I've heard. So to be very clear, I'm not 100%, but that I believe was our outcome when we looked at it last time.
Why would he
Um,
drive out there and go back and then go back again?
Because you got to set up your apartment. You don't go out there and like, yeah, pack everything up, gun ho. I have no idea where I'm gonna live. I have no idea where. Like, you got to go out there before you move. Haven't you ever moved?
Yeah, a lot.
You go first. You don't just pack all your stuff up and hope for the best.
Okay, so you're saying but he was living in college housing.
Yeah.
So he may not have to go there first.
Wait.
So that would just be a
Wait.
visit.
Wait.
That wouldn't be him
No.
moving.
He had his own. So his apartment was college direct. Like it
Yeah.
was actual. What's that called? Why can I not remember the
Steptoe
word?
Apartments. It's
What's
on campus.
what is it called? I'm drawing a blank. ADHD
It wasn't
moment.
a
What is
dorm.
housing called? Yeah, dorm.
It wasn't a dorm. Steptoe Village, largest apartment complex and family housing. I thought
Right.
it was literally
Right.
on
So
campus.
it's
You guys,
probably
maybe I'm wrong.
secondary housing is what I'm assuming it is. Is
Okay.
secondary housing because it's family housing. So
No, you're right. It's not.
how that works. There's usually
probably a lot of college kids that live there because it is
Oh,
really
it's probably
close.
all college kids.
I've looked at where it is on the map, and I could have swore it was on campus, but I think it's just like right next to campus or something.
Yeah. So I wonder. I think where it would determine, and not that it matters to this situation, but if they're privately owned but committed to WSU, that is one thing, and that could totally be the case. I mean, I've lived in a ton of college towns. You know how many houses and apartments are around the college that are privately owned college specific houses? A lot.
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah,
a guaranteed move-in. You know what I mean?
yeah. From what I see, oh, it says WSU housing. It's
sure
owned
it
by the
is.
university,
So it's owned by the university?
Washington State University.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily. We'll have to dig into that. I don't want to get too caught up on that because
alright.
it doesn't matter in this
Okay.
situation. But we'll figure it out for sure and then do a follow-up on it or whatever. But regardless, I don't think it changes anything in this situation.
Yeah, I think it is owned by the college. That's my assumption right now.
Yeah, we'll figure it out for sure. But again, I don't think it changes anything in
Okay.
this situation.
I mean, it just like if you set it up, you know, like it makes sense, yes, to visit first. Like, yeah, I've usually visited before I went there. But I didn't like take stuff out there and set an apartment up and then go back and then come back, which is what I was getting the impression you were saying, not just visiting.
No. Normally, what I would assume happened is he flew out there and got things set up, right? Applied and got through all the paperwork of the transfer and getting his courses set up, all that stuff. You can normally do that in a weekend setup and get your apartment, get the keys, normally before you can move in, you got to prove that you have your electricity turned on, your water, like all these things that need to be done. Then you fly back home, get all your stuff, and then
drive out there.
Yeah.
Right.
So when he drove out there that second time is the official move-in time, because whenever you initially go out there, that I don't think that's when it starts, but
No.
right. So but again, just to be clear, I'm not a hundo on that. I just think that that's more than likely what it was. So when we're looking at this, why do you think so many people believe this?
Believe that he hacked security cameras?
This whole situation. Remember how absurd it is. So very specifically, the mainstream news said he broke into an apartment without stealing anything with the manipulative intention to get her to have him install security cameras so he could get her Wi-Fi password and then have full access and hacked security cameras to see what she's doing at all times, which is ridiculous, like we said in the video, because you don't install security cameras in a bedroom, in a bathroom, in a front room, like they're outside.
Yeah, but some people install them inside their home. If they have a pet, or I've seen plenty of people have them installed, like the girl
for
who
different situations than security and safety of your home.
I don't know. I mean, there's many reasons people install them in the home, but I think it would just be weird if her house got broken
It's
into
very
and she went
strange.
along with having a guy install a bunch of security cameras inside of her house. But
Exactly.
I could see somebody who wants to keep tabs on somebody wanting to have access to their security cameras, because then you can see what time she's coming and going, if she's bringing somebody home with her, things like that. So I could see the advantage of doing that, of having access to somebody's security cameras. But do we really think that Bryan Kohberger, being in the field that he's in, if he had any plans or intentions of doing anything to this woman, would leave a trace like that?
That that's my point, and the fact that it's not as clear cut as people think it
And it's not
is.
easy. I feel like a lot of people think hacking into somebody's security cameras, oh,
Oh,
anybody who has tech knowledge,
no.
is really good with tech, could do that. It would be so easy for them, and it's not.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely not. It's a multi-step process, and if you're depending on how you're planning on hacking someone, there's a lot of different steps, you guys. Everything from phishing emails to where you have a keylogger punched in while they're typing in a password so that they know what that password, then making the assumption that's the password used on other applications. Like, it, hacking takes a long, long, long time. You know, there's this hacker group out there. I think they're primarily Russian, but a lot of times hackers transcend the bounds of country lines. Okay.
Yeah.
And
You
so
mean
a lot of hackers work together online and they are not like dedicated to a singular country or whatever, unless they got in trouble and have to work off their debt. But these hackers committed to hacking the world banks, okay? And for 7 or 8 years, 7 or 8 years, these were top of the class leading hackers, took 7 or 8 years to get into the World Bank system and be able to get to a place where they're siphoning off fractions of pennies. They ended up, I mean, the amount they got, it was well worth the 7 or 8 years. They ended up getting hundreds of millions. But anyways, that commitment is 7 or 8 years to get in there. Just to give people an understanding of, like, how much work hacking is.
Yeah, but that's also like banks.
It is banks, but it's very similar situations. Like, you're still doing very similar things. It's not like there's not a machine that I could pull out and plug in, and all of a sudden, all of you watching, I can click on your picture and see the background coding, the ones and zeros that have built the application that you're on, and then I get to insert mine in between that code. Like, it doesn't work like that. That is not how it works.
Yeah. Hacking
So,
isn't easy.
I it's not easy, and there is a lot of in-person elements, for bigger hacks. There is a lot of steps before you can gain access to the actual application that you're wanting to get to. The only way I see this being probable, okay, for one, it doesn't seem likely because if I'm a stalker, I don't want to see you walking into your front door. That is not enough. I want to see what you're doing in your house. They're stalking the person. The person is the important thing, not your whereabouts. It matters because that person is going there, but like their obsession is with the person, right? So you would want to know what's going on in there. So to assume that he created this big elaborate scheme when if you're in her house and or setting this up, wouldn't it just be easier to set up your own camera? Much easier. Much easier.
Oh, yeah, like, especially if she lives in an apartment, you could just install it somewhere that she wouldn't notice.
Yep.
There's lots of places in an apartment
Exterior
complex.
windows. I mean, that's the first thing I think of is who opens their window. You guys are gonna do it now. Who opens their window and looks in each corner to see if there's a camera? So just so you guys know, cameras are smaller than this. All right. You can get cameras easily smaller than this, like a quarter of that size. So like if I'm a stalker and I'm tech knowledgeable, you literally get your camera, uh run a source of energy to it that's underneath the window, and you just tape it to the window, dude, and you could see through it.
Yeah, you're right. It is kind of silly to like manipulate her that way to get him to help her install security cameras.
Which is what I'm trying to sell. Like, this sounds like prime real estate for character assassination.
What if there was just a situation where this girl did get help from him installing security cameras around her house? And she thought after he was arrested, oh my gosh, I had him help me set up security cameras. What if he was spying on me?
Oh, that's a really good
And so she
question.
talked to the news about
Mhm.
it, and but there's no
Well,
evidence
she
there.
didn't talk
She's
to the news about it. Otherwise, they would have asked to name her. The news doesn't suggest that you stay quiet.
okay, then who did she talk to?
I I don't know if she talked to anybody. I couldn't find
So
her
she
name
coulda talked to a
anywhere.
friend, and then the friend talked to the news about it, and
Could've,
she thought, he helped me install security
or
cameras.
she called the popo,
I'm really creeped out now." But there's no evidence there that anything even happened. He
or
could
she
have
called the
just
police.
he could have just literally been helpful.
Yeah, helpful in the same way that he helped get the shocker to bring somebody back to life. So,
Yeah, he did help bring somebody back to life.
yep.
Um, so I mean, I think the story has been ridiculous for me from the beginning, but once you dug into it and saw that there's literally nothing there, that there's no single bit of evidence we can look back at and say, well, yeah, that's a fact. Not one.
Nothing. I couldn't find nothing. And to be clear, I'll give you guys a rundown. So I searched the regular search engines everywhere. Okay. I searched the gray web search engines everywhere. I did all the tricks. I did all the things, changing the GPS location, changing the country of origin, changing everything. I probably clicked on 250 different links trying to find anything, you guys, literally anything. And there's nothing. There is a huge abundance of really, really great, really interestingly written headlines from all these news sources, but not a single sliver piece of evidence. I couldn't find her name. I couldn't find the location. I couldn't find nothing. Nothing.
So J. Ray said anonymous that a fellow student suspected Bryan Kohberger was responsible for the security camera thing we're talking about. So it was reported on by a podcaster who heard from an anonymous source that it happened to a different student.
And mainstream media was like, oh, grab that.
So I mean, I don't know what podcast or anything like that. I don't know where this story came from. We just kept seeing you pulled up a bunch of different articles, and I
It's
actually
literally
went through.
everywhere and
Yeah,
so many
I
comments.
pulled up a bunch of articles myself, and I saw the same thing that you saw, and they don't cite a podcaster anywhere, do they?
No, they don't cite nothing.
I didn't think so.
Nothing, you guys. I looked for anything, absolutely anything. The only thing I'm not willing to do is I'm not willing to look like a stalker. So I am not willing to go out there in person and start knocking on doors. I'm just not willing to do that. I think that there is enough evidence here to cast enough doubt to ask the right questions and see that, if this is our meter, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm leaning towards less likely, less plausible, not more plausible, less plausible. Okay, well, let's look at it from plausibility point of view. What are some things that could make this true? He has a tech background, okay?
Okay, yeah.
He has a tech background.
Um, I don't know. I can't think of anything else.
So he has a tech background. What could make it true is um he lived near her or has some kind of personal connection to her via working together, going to the same school together, something like that, right? There's got to be some kind of connection, how she knew him in some way. Uh, and the most important thing is if there's evidence. So just to be very clear, everybody, I don't know how many of you have security cameras, but if you want protection, I say this all the time, security cameras and dogs, security cameras and dogs, and make sure that those security cameras are being saved to a very secure source that somebody can't just get in your phone and erase them. You know, there's settings you can set it up to like create doubles. So no matter what, like they cannot be erased. Even if they get erased from the app, they're still being saved somewhere else. But security cameras and dogs. So the only other thing would be if they had evidence of somebody having access to these security cameras and you couldn't erase that evidence.
No, that's the thing with this is that all of these security cameras are attached to an application. That application, like we've talked about many times before, has background, it's collecting your data. So there is evidence there. They can contact that company. They can ask for every IP address that has ever logged into that account and the IMEI for every phone that has logged into that account. They can get possibly even geolocation data. Like it's collecting data. So if it really happened, they can get proof for it. Absolutely.
And there's no way to hack that out of there. Just to be
No.
clear, if you wanted to somehow erase that in some, I don't even know how you would do it. If you wanted to somehow erase it, okay, you would have to hack the security company. All right, the platform for that. Hang on, you guys. I'm going to show you one of the headlines here because someone is asking like just some sources or whatever. This is just what I used in the video, so just so you know. Wait, all right, so here we go. Daily News. Bryan Kohberger broke into female student's home and installed security cameras months before Idaho murders. Okay, that goes back to when did he move in, right? What is your definition of months? Because we have November, October, September, August.
3 months.
If he moved in August, right? If he moved in August, we don't have anything concrete saying that. I think the only person who would be the person who signed the lease that gave the move-in date. And hang on here. Here's another great one. So Bryan Kohberger tricked colleague to install cameras in her pad before killing students.
In her pad?
Wait. Idaho. Quadruple murder suspect Bryan Kohberger broke into apartment of female colleague, then installed security cameras to spy on her when she asked for help months before brutal killings. And in small print here, Kohberger is reportedly being looked at as a suspect for the break-ins during the fall of 2022. He suggested to his female coworker that she install video cameras for safety reasons. Uh-oh, I just did that for you guys. I just suggested you guys install security cameras. It comes ahead of his arraignment hearing at Latah County Court on Monday morning.
Yeah, and go read these articles, guys. They're all terrible.
Bam.
There's no source in there. All of them.
No
I swear.
source or evidence.
But that's messed up too. That's super messed up. They're spreading it around like that. It's so not okay.
It's not
because
okay
it's only the
when-
way they're phrasing it. Now, if they said there is a rumor going around that he did this, then that would be different. But it's never stated as a rumor.
Oh, I don't even think it needs to be stated as a rumor. I feel like you can find that middle ground by, look, we covered this in the objectivity and subjectivity video. Everybody, every single person in the world has facts that they believe in and are not ultimate truths. Okay. So there are things that are true in your life that I'm talking to you right there that are not true for me, but they are for you. Therefore, what is that truth, right? Without getting too philosophical here. And in the case of mainstream media, I think that if you just gave the other argument, the opposing argument, even if it's 10%, 90%, 90% your preferred argument, 10% the other argument, you're at least giving people the option of understanding that this isn't on a scale, right? This is on a weighted scale of your subjective opinionated beliefs and where you land. And that never happens with these stories ever. And I know they're a business and we're a business. They got a tax ID, we got a tax ID, but you got, and I'm not trying to be like, "Ooh, look at us," but I would feel bad. This makes me feel bad to our viewers if I just straight up commit and are like, "This is what it is, you guys, 100%. This is it. No other possibilities, no other anything."
Yeah, I don't yeah, that would make me feel bad too.
Yeah, you're intentionally misleading people. I don't know. It just feels wrong.
It does feel wrong, but it happens a lot in mainstream
Karma.
media. But yeah, I mean, I find it interesting, and I think that there could be something to this that originated the rumor. Now, it could be totally BS and never have happened, and this girl never exists. That's totally possible. But I think there could be, I mean, who knows? What if it is true and it was a cop going around spreading rumors to the media, or not really rumors, but giving them a tip, or you know what I mean? Because it's clear that some people in the media have had sources,
I
because they,
mean,
like News Nation reporting that the judge rejected that last court hearing. They were announcing the results
so
before the public hearing ever went live.
I'm less likely to believe that they have a source and more likely to believe that that was an educated, marketed business move. One, if they put that out there, people are going to do what you're doing right now and think, "Oh, geez, I need to watch them. They got an
What? I'm
inside
not doing
source.
that.
They got an inside source." And that inside source is going to give information before other companies, right? So it's actually a pretty smart business move.
It is.
Two, um, if they need a certain outcome, this is what this is highly philosophical, okay? What is truth in the way of, if enough people believe something, it is true, regardless of what the objective information says, right? And that goes to philosophy and debate, because if enough people believe something is true, therefore the argument will always be stronger than the opposing theory. And that's where science and philosophy like butt heads, where philosophy says the most true truth is the one that's believed by the most people, whereas science is, we don't care who believes what, it's what the evidence shows. Both of those things, in my opinion, are true, right? Because there's social definitions and then there's dictionary actual definitions. And what are we going to lean on, and what benefits any certain position or situation better? They both can. One's just more flawed than the other. However, it doesn't make it less true,
Anyway, what I was saying, I think that there
you
could
know?
be some original truth to the rumor, that it took on a life of its own, to where he could have helped, like I said, a girl out, and then she got weird about it, or told somebody about it and it was never weird to her, but that person made it weird. Like you don't know where it comes from, but if there was any evidence to back it at all, where is it?
I
Where
agreed.
is this girl?
Yep, I know.
Nobody
know.
has heard a word from her.
I mean, to be fair, if I was her, I wouldn't come out either. Just because of, like, why?
What?
Why? You know what I mean?
What do you mean,
Why
why?
throw your name in that hat when this is one of the most recognizable stories connected to Bryan Kohberger that could potentially verify and back the mass murderer, stalker, serial killer type behaviors? If a girl came out and said, "Hey, mainstream media, that's me," dude, that's going to temporarily, maybe even long term, turn your life upside down.
And you know what? I agree, Jennifer. That's a good comment. If it were true, wouldn't Moscow PD have been using that to prove their
Oh,
narrative?
absolutely.
Oh yeah, like they cited many other things to try to prove their narrative with him. Why wouldn't they do that
Well,
one?
to play devil's advocate in just that situation alone, that's assuming that all the evidence we see truly is all the evidence, that we don't have verification of that yet. It's plausible there is no additional great bomb evidence, but it's also plausible that there's not. So if there's not, then yes, absolutely, that is information, if it was true, that could be used to strengthen the case and investigation of Bryan Kohberger being the guy. However, if it's not, then it could still be used to character assassinate, because again, this goes back to, if enough people believe he's guilty, they're hoping for that. I shouldn't say they are. It's possible they're hoping for that outcome, that enough people believe he's guilty, that they don't need to have the evidence to support guilt of that level. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And huge shout out to Marietta coming in with a gifted Thought Riot podcast membership. We appreciate you. And for those of you that are not members already, turn on your your gifting. What's it called? Your gift acceptance setting. Turn on your
Allow
ability to
gifts.
allow gifts, because at least once a month we give out a whole bunch also. So,
And
yeah.
I'm not saying they would use it in court necessarily. I'm saying that somebody would have come out and shown some kind of proof, to in the media specifically to add to the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I think so, yeah, it's very possible.
But instead, they come out with it and give nothing. Literally
Right.
nothing.
Yep. Boom, there we go.
Yay.
Alright, welcome everybody, welcome, welcome, super stoked for those of you that just
It's a
received a
gifting
membership.
party.
Yes, and I gotta go to the bathroom, I gotta drop some memberships and then use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. Good riddance. Just kidding. What? Why did it stop? There should be like 5 more here. I think it's still trying to oh, wait, no. He gave out 5. Okay. I was wrong. No problem. Ew. So, what do you guys think so far? Leave your opinions in the comments about the motion to transfer. We knew it was coming, and it was finally filed. I found it interesting that when they were in court and said they were going to have a motion to transfer coming, but she kind of, I don't know why, I got the impression that it was going to take a little bit. She got that thing out quick. real quick. Here's a serious question. If we spent over an hour talking about this, doesn't it further spread the false unverified narrative? No. Because we've been talking about this whole time why we think it's not possible. And I think Brendan brings pretty good evidence of why it's super, super improbable that that ever happened. It's not easy to hack a camera. And I never thought about installing your own camera, but that makes way more sense and leaves less of a trace because say you were to get caught doing something like that, okay? Spying on somebody with a camera. Why would you want your devices attached to her devices? Because what if something happened? Like she can either give her phone to the cops or whatever device to the cops and they can look into it, or say somebody were to harm her that was stalking her and was spying on her with the device, then like they'll have her devices to look back at. Like it makes more sense to use your own camera, especially if you know anything about tech. It's not super easy to hack into it. Now, I guess if you're the one setting it up for her, then I guess also setting up her account and making her password. I guess so, but she sounds like a young woman. Like not too many young people are totally lost with tech the way older people was. If he was installing this for an older woman, then that would be different because she probably wouldn't know how to check the devices that are on her account. This is a young person, you know what I mean? That is grown up with tech. Most people know you can check what devices are logged into your account. And I know that the security apps that I've had, which I've had several of them, it's not hard to see how many devices are logged in. So I don't think it's spreading the false narrative whatsoever. I think it's important to talk about because it's confusing. I was confused why so many people believed that it was true. I don't understand it. And there's so many people out here listening to content creators and mainstream media reporters and everybody saying it like it's a fact. And I think there needs to be another voice to the contrary. If they're going to spread it around, there needs to be somebody out there's like being the voice of reason saying it's BS. There's no proof. You're not citing any sources.
Yeah, I just want to be careful wording it that way because I don't agree that it's total BS. I just think that with the evidence we have currently right now, it does not seem possible. The only possibility that it could be true in any sort of world is one, if the police investigated it, found actual evidence, found an actual technology fingerprint that connected to Bryan Kohberger's devices or something of that nature, and included it in their case evidence. Very unlikely based on what we've seen from the police department and the prosecution and how they present things. But is it possible? Sure, it's possible for sure. I just think that more than likely it's unlike the way it's presented feels hollow is what I will say. That's how I feel about it.
You just said a whole bunch it wasn't possible, and now you're saying it is possible.
It's not possible with the current story we have. That's what I just said. With everything that we're reading and seeing, that is not a possibility. That's why it feels hollow in the objective evidence backing the information that's being stated. I just want to be very careful because I don't want to create a situation where we seem like something is an impossibility when it's not an impossibility. It's just not, it's impossible with the current storyline, but which therefore makes it improbable, but still possible just with other information.
You really talk circles sometimes.
Word.
Yes, I do think young people have a better understanding of tech than older people who didn't grow up with it. It comes more natural. That doesn't mean they completely understand it, and there's older people that probably understand it better than younger people
I'm
because they went to school for it or had a job in it or have a personal interest in it, but my experience is that most people, um, that are older, like over the age of 40,
I'm
don't have
60
a
and I know it.
great understanding of tech. They didn't grow up with it the way that young people are growing up with it now.
Yeah, well, some of the best hackers in the world are older people.
Yeah,
And
but those
that
are people, like I said, have a special interest in tech
yeah,
and
yeah,
have
yeah.
kept up to date on that knowledge.
Yeah,
Your average person is not that.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Yep, definitely. But I just found it so interesting. So interesting. And it I can't help but looking into any situation from a philosophical perspective of look, we put out those red flags around the possibility of Bryan Kohberger showing signs uh of a serial killer, right? Why do people believe this story so intently?
I think people are searching for answers.
I don't think that's the reason why they believe this. There's some reason. Was it because there was this story was backed by an ex FBI agent? But these questions are the questions I ask in any situation is why this story?
What are you talking about? Nancy Grace and all the people that preach this, all the people that listen to those people and preach these things believe in all of the stories, not just this one. They believe he was kicked out of that school or whatever for an issue with a girl. They believe all kinds of things.
Yeah, but there was an overwhelming amount of comments specifically about this story, not any of the mainstream content. You can't even take opinions of mainstream media because we don't know if it's genuine or if it's written script. So I'm talking about people in general, the people that are leaving the comments. What is so attractive to this story to make so many people believe
Because
this?
it's local and it happens right before the time of the crime.
I maybe, I don't know. I'm not looking for an actual answer. I don't think we're gonna get one for like deep philosophical questions like this. It just makes me
I
wonder
think there's
why.
many reasons. I think it's because he is an expert in tech, or at least went to school for it,
But
and
most people don't understand what that means.
true. And that goes back to Tommy saying that pressing buttons isn't understanding tech, which I agree with you. I'm saying young people understand the usability part of it. I'm not saying they would know how to build a computer. I just have a lot of experience of trying to teach older family members how to use their phones, okay? And they don't get it the way a 5-year-old gets it, which is weird. It's just the usability. That's all I'm saying. And it's
I think it's
general.
just
I'm
confidence.
speaking very generally. I know there are older people who have great understanding, younger people have great understanding, and there's everybody in the middle. But your average older person didn't care about those things because they didn't have to. You know what I mean? But anyway, I think that there's a lot of aspects to the story that hit certain marks that fit their idea of who Bryan Kohberger is or had to be to commit this crime.
It could
It's the
be.
control, it's the creepy spying stalker, it has to do with technology, it's a lone female college student, it's local to the area, right by where he was living supposedly, like, and within the same time frame of all of this. I think it hits a lot of
Maybe.
marks.
It might, maybe. I don't know. I think that question is again one of the open-ended questions that there isn't an answer for. There is no well-defined answer. Was this story talked about more than the other stories? Was this story more believed because we had an ex FBI agent talking about it? Was this story used as an integral part of a character assassination attempt to trial by media? Like, why is this one so many more comments talking about, well, I can tell you why. It's because this proves Bryan Kohberger was evolving and escalating.
So, what was that one statement that somebody said that girl said?
What?
Do you remember?
Nobody.
Yeah, there was. I was just curious because
Huh?
remember there was an article that said she said something.
No.
Yes.
I literally couldn't find anything. If you know where it is, like, very quick, that would be interesting, but, I did not find a single one. There is no comment from her directly. None.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, for receipts, for sure. I agree with you, but I think that comes back to a lot of the evidence in this case. And honestly, I feel like that's why this case can be talked about. How many hours do we have under our belt talking about this case? Yeah, AI. We do use AI a lot for research, but one of the benefits to Thought Riot Podcast is we are completely unscripted. Like, never, ever, ever have a script. At the very most, you'll see from us is bullet pointed information. So we try our best to, like, get objective information and then talk through it together. But AI is incredible. I am an advocate of AI. I am 100% and totally on board with technology. I am not an advocate for one of those. I am not an advocate for, like, going backwards in history. I know there's a lot of people out there, even people that I agree with in a lot of areas, that fully believe that, you know, tech is going to be our downfall and we need to go back to how things were. And okay, I hear your point. However, time doesn't work like that, and humans don't evolve like that. We always go forward. So we need to learn new ways, completely new ways to manage technology in an effective way without crippling us, you know, and that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I agree. So the Daily Mail article, I guess I don't know. I guess I was wrong. I thought you told me about it in the video, but this says that
I'm working on
he
something with AI.
befriended a woman at Washington State University in Pullman, according to Dateline and News Nation's Chris Cuomo or whatever. And it says down here that Dateline claims that he offered to put in the video network, which she agreed to, though now authorities believe that he could have accessed it remotely because he knew her Wi-Fi password. Dateline claims that.
Yeah, so no comment. That's not a comment.
And then they cite ex-FBI profiler Greg Cooper. Are they using him as the authority?
We talk down to older people. Get out of here, you guys.
What?
But
Saying that older people don't have a great understanding on something that's newer to humanity is not talking down about
no,
them.
I think they're just trolling. I think it was satirical
Okay.
because we definitely don't. But yeah, there is no comment. That's what I'm
Well,
saying is you have to be, look, if you're not somebody that can figure out, like, a linear progression of conversation and statements in cases like this, dude, write it down. Are they saying that this is a statement that somebody took from somebody? Because if they are, then it's not trustworthy. It has to be, this person made this statement. This person, this statement. There
well,
is no, you know, he went and talked to her, and his statement is that she made this statement. Get out of here.
Well, there's a ton of
Get
people
outta
that
here.
use the Daily Mail as a major source when they're looking into this case because the Daily Mail posts on everything.
Yeah, there's
Um,
nothing wrong with
so
using the daily. I think
can I?
everything needs to be looked at objectively. That's why we
That's
tell
fine.
people not to believe us.
Yeah, that's fine. That's not. I'm just saying that. But I find it interesting that they say now authorities believe he could have accessed it remotely because he knew her Wi-Fi password.
I
And
mean,
then ex-FBI profiler Greg Cooper claims that the incident was a step in progression of Kohberger's alleged offending, indicating he was upping the ante. It's funny that they say authorities now believe that and then cite an ex-FBI
yeah,
profiler.
that's what
So
we just talked
are they
about.
literally talking about him as the authority?
We didn't have the name when we talked about earlier in here, but that's what we've been talking about the
I
whole time with the
know.
ex-FBI profiler.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. We showed his picture on the video and
I
everything, and
know.
I understand that you know that, but then what's your angle and point? You need to explain what the point is
I
of
asked a
bringing that up
question.
right now.
I asked a question.
Okay.
So they're not are they talking about Moscow Police Department or are they talking about Greg Cooper?
They're not talking about anything.
I just think it's funny they're saying authorities and then he is in literally the next sentence.
Yeah.
And all they do is quote him here and everything he said of what he would have been trying to accomplish by doing this.
Right, right. And that's why I
So I think
asked
that's
that
what Greg
question.
Cooper believes, but there's no single bit of information that any authority has put out that was a part of this investigation or any investigation of Bryan Kohberger that has anything to do with this.
Correct. Yeah. No, yeah. I was just a little lost because I thought we had already gotten to the point where like we've cleared that up.
No, I'm saying that's shady that they say authorities believe this and then cite an ex-FBI agent and everything. Like, I feel like it's shady.
Yeah. I
That's
agree
all I'm
with you.
trying to point out.
It's just a manipulation technique.
Yes.
It's a way to, it's shady sales techniques is what it is. Again, like I was talking about statements being made. If you guys are reading an article and that article says, hey, so our lead investigator, Brendan, went on scene, and Brendan's statement is this victim's statement was, and then da 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 da. Most people will read that as not Brendan saying this, but the victims saying this. And that's just another tactic and technique to further promote that story and make it seem like something's being said that's not being said.
Yeah, that's what I think that tactic was. That's all I was trying to point out. Because I think that somebody reading that would say, "Well, the authorities said that." Like,
Yeah,
makes it feel legit because they said authorities and then they cite somebody who is like an ex-authority.
right.
And
Ex FBI.
making you subconsciously feel like it's validated
Yeah,
because he is an
police.
ex-FBI profiler.
Right. Absolutely.
That's a
Absolutely.
title. So
Yeah.
I feel like it just subconsciously affirms it.
Yeah, I mean, Coffindaffer, why do you think Coffindaffer has so much pull? Because she has a title of ex-FBI. Again, this goes back to the conversation we had when we very, very, very started talking about this around the flaws of expert titles. An expert is not a title. It is you're an expert because you can manage and effectively present and use this information in better than, 90% of the population. That's why that mistake around Bryan Kohberger's car is so detrimental to me, because if you're an expert and you're an expert for the FBI, you are not allowed to make mistakes like that. You are not allowed to make mistakes like that, not because you're a human and like humans make mistakes, right? There's no way around that. However, it is there's best practices put into place to make sure that mistakes like that can't happen by double verifying, by triple verification, by doing multiple different tests to get to an end result and conclusion, and then compare that work. So I don't believe that an FBI agent would make a mistake like that unless the decision is being made in passing and they're not actually using their tools. That's why there's such a flaw in that expert title. And that's why it feels dirty when I'm saying I'm a technology expert or a cell phone technology expert, while there are very few people out there in the world that probably have as much experience as I do. It feels weird because when you're looking at things from an objectively scientific angle, titles are subjective, not objective. Titles just mean you're the person who has the tools to give the most reliable answer. It doesn't mean what I say is true. So I think that's a flaw. That's a flaw that we all fall into, myself included.
I mean, I think expert means something. It's not a worthless term for me, but
Oh.
I think that just because you hear the word expert does not mean you should therefore stop thinking for yourself and just believe whatever comes out of their mouth.
See, I see it different.
I think that what they deserve to be heard and that their opinion is valid, but that's like anybody else. Like I would hear anybody
Exactly.
out.
That's why I'm
So,
saying that. That doesn't mean
but
nothing
their
to me.
experience and their studying and whatever they did to gain that title matters to me, but it doesn't mean I'm going to believe them if I think there is flaws in their opinion. If
Yeah.
I see flaws that are objective, I see counter evidence to what they're saying, I'm not just going to believe
But
it
then
because
you're
they're an
literally
expert.
proving my point then that a title doesn't have anything. A title doesn't mean anything. So, in
No,
my opinion,
I'm not proving your point.
You are, because if you're verifying the work of an expert, therefore that title doesn't make you more believable.
It gives more worth to what you're saying if you have a ton
How?
of experience, because expert implies
But
experience, and experience is what matters.
the only thing, I mean, it doesn't matter. The only thing your casework matters, not your experience. You should be gaining experience to give the best and most reliable casework from your experience. But if you're not doing that, shoot, you know how many people float through life in positions where just because you have the time under your belt doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. I've seen people come into positions that have been in positions for a month and they're killing it in comparison to people that have been there 10 years. But again, this is just my opinion, you guys, that uh, I don't buy into anybody just because you have the experience that you're considered an expert. That's awesome. I want to talk to you and I'm interested in what you have to say. But I absolutely will verify the casework. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think expert is an overly used term. But if somebody has a PhD in something, I'm going to value what they have to say more than a schmuck on the street. And I just will. But again, I'm going to look at it critically always because I will do that for anybody.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just not that way. I
I
don't,
think
a schmuck on the street has the same value and worth, and their opinions mean the same to me as a doctor. But that's just me. Because learned knowledge is everything. I don't care about your IQ. I don't
what
care how much money
learned
you had
that has
from your
nothing to
parents.
do
Like,
with an expert. Learned knowledge is literally the point of being an expert.
okay, but you're assuming that time equals learned knowledge. It doesn't.
True.
So it's just
But
in my
PhD is
opinion.
not just spending time in school. You have to work your butt off to get a PhD.
Yeah, I get that. I'm not including PhD. I am not including a PhD because I think a PhD is a PhD, and you're still not considered an expert in your field with a PhD. You would come out of that and you would go into the work, you would go into work with the rest of the PhD. Let's just use medical doctors for an example. You get out into the doctor workforce and you are the lowest on the totem pole, therefore not an expert.
True. You're a newbie.
Yeah, you wouldn't be considered one of the most specialty experts and focused in, neurosurgery or skeletal, whatever all the different classifications are. You just wouldn't be considered an expert.
So what do you consider an expert?
I don't. I think that you're like I've said the whole time. I think you're an expert by your own making. Where are you creating a reliable enough work product that it is better than most people's out there? And I think everybody should verify everything. It is trust but verify, right? And like I said, there's very few people that probably have the same amount of years in wireless and technology and the all things having to do with it without getting too detailed. However, that means nothing. That doesn't mean anything if I'm spitting out just random nonsense.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I've seen a ton of experts spit out random nonsense.
And I don't want to get too caught up in this, but this is the argument that I was making in the beginning of it, where I think everybody should verify everything. That is what we are here to do. We are not here to hop on board and be like, yeah, you're an expert and so I'm going to believe you no matter what.
Well, because, yeah, like police, if you are down that expert train, they're experts in being police. And so if you just, I think people trust a title too much. That is true. But I mean, you know what? I see your argument with the expert thing too, because when you go into a court of law and you have expert witnesses, you will have people on the state side and people on the defense side that say completely opposite things.
Exactly.
And it's like, but they're an expert in the same thing.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I don't know. I guess it really doesn't mean much, but I guess, I don't know. I think people who have worked really hard to gain knowledge, it says something, I don't know.
Yeah. I agree. Now, yeah. And listen, you guys. So when I'm making statements like that, I understand that it's gonna make some people, probably feel some type of way if you're an expert and you've worked hard for that. However, there's nothing wrong with accountability and verification in my worldview, right? And that's just a fact of mine that I don't. To me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're the president. It doesn't matter if you're a movie star. It doesn't matter if you're a homeless person on the street. I'm going to treat you the same. I'm going to believe you the same. I am going to trust but verify every single thing that comes out of your mouth. If you guys have been with us for a while, you will have heard me say this. I treat my family the same way, the exact same way. And I just treat everybody like that across the board, and I'm upfront about it. So I understand that might be a little bit of a different view personally. And I don't want people to feel like I'm minimizing what they have done. I think that, people that would be even considered an expert, that's hard earned. Absolutely. But you only get to be considered an expert if your work product continues the same. You know what I mean?
No, they still get to be considered an expert. They just will be spouting BS.
I mean, according to who? So,
I mean, to a lot of people.
I'm giving my opinion. So, in my opinion, you are no longer an expert if your workload does not match that. I don't care what anyone else says about it. That's just my opinion and how I'm going to treat people the same, so I just want to be clear because I don't want people to feel like I'm like minimizing their profession or anything like that. I would never do that ever, ever, ever. But I'm just an all around skeptic, honestly. It's safer to not trust people, you guys. It's safer to not trust people, and not because there's some kind of damage, I don't have some kind of baggage or anything like that. It's because I want people to treat me that way. Do not trust what I'm saying. I would never expect someone to trust what I'm saying. Let's have a conversation around objective facts, not subjective opinions. And I think that it helps in situations like this. And I think that it helps filter through some of these absolutely horrible news stories that come out.
That have expert opinions.
Yeah, that has anything tied to it. Anything. And who knows, maybe my worldview is skewed because I'm a salesman and I know what can be said, how it can be said, and how it can be used to create a profile of something and somebody in a way that is separate from the truth. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's interesting for sure. So but going back to this topic, it drives me crazy, these details, because it does the opposite of helps us get to the truth and justice in this case.
Yeah,
And it's
I
just
agree.
really unfortunate.
I agree. All of the, because it just seems like misinformation, like it's, or disinformation. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's
It
such a
depends on if
political
you
word right now.
believe that it is intentional or not. But we really don't know. But it just seems like a distraction. I'll put it that way. Because there's no evidence backing it up. There's
Yeah,
nothing factual there.
yeah,
It's a bunch of opinions and rumors and speculation that's being presented as fact. And that just, there's no place for it.
yeah, yeah,
If it's straight up speculation, say it's speculation. Don't come out and try to have an expert try to make it seem like it's a fact when it's not.
yeah, yeah, and
You can't get to the truth with no evidence.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I didn't
So
see if anyone actually got offended or not. I see CH saying that it comes back to my essentially tone or lack of it. Is that what it says? Intention. Okay, intention. Comes off as everything.
no,
I don't know nothing, you guys. You can't listen to uh you can't
intonation.
listen to my tonality or how I present something. I'm a salesperson. I'm going to tell you what I mean. Anybody that assumes what I mean without asking me, I mean, to be fair, that's just a flawed way of looking at me, because I don't think I know everything. All I can do is give my opinion, and my opinion is my own. Just like your guys' opinion is your own. And I respect your opinion. I love everyone's opinion, and I want to hear everyone's opinion, because everyone else's opinion helps me progress mine, but I can only share my opinion as it is right now. And this is one thing that a lot of people fall into, is just because one person is concrete in their opinion, that doesn't mean that it devalues opinions that are different.
So I wanted to say that I don't think saying expert means nothing to me. It's what you have to say that matters, and that it can be verified is really what you mean. And it's not that you're not willing to listen. You're willing to listen to everybody the same,
Yeah,
equally.
absolutely.
'Cause, that's what CH was basically saying, is you're not willing to, like, listen to what others have to say, and I don't think that's what it is. I think Brendan's
No.
saying he'll listen to anybody
Yeah,
equally, and it only matters if it can be verified.
correct. Yeah. So it
So
goes it
just
goes
because
back
you
to my
present some
life
just because you present
motto.
right, just because you present something like you're an expert doesn't mean I'm just gonna believe you, because you are an expert.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look, what's important is that the title expert doesn't, what circumvent
The
your work product. You still got to show up, you guys. You still got to show up. And again, I think that could come back from my experience in sales. If you're a salesperson and you've been in sales for 20 years, I managed someone that was in their 60s before, and I managed someone that was in their 50s before, and the person in their 50s, I ended up having to let go because they didn't produce, even though they've been with the company for like 20 something years. And sales in particular is a very aggressive industry, it is a you succeed and meet your quota based on how much you put into it. If you are not hitting those numbers, then there isn't room for you, and that's just how sales is all across the board. And this person had been with the company for a very, very, very long time, and they weren't showing up. They weren't meeting the minimum standards anymore, even though they had been with the company for like 18 years. And unfortunately, they got let go. And if you look at their experience in years, right? They were an expert, but they weren't producing as an expert at that time. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good example. Sales can be tough. It is tough. However, though, you guys, like, if you're a salesperson, because that sounds very raw, right? I think for a lot of people, like, geez, so he was with the company for almost 20 years and you guys just let him go. I was feeling that way. It was one of those situations that stuck with me because I had to let somebody go, and firing people's awful, absolutely awful, and it's why I never want to manage people again because of firing people. I hate it. I despise it, dude. But in sales, you're given a lot of other options if something's not working. So, oh, absolutely, I gave them warnings. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's 3 strikes, you're out under me when I'm managing people. You get 3 strikes, the 4th you get let go. But you're given like a whole bunch of benefits, you guys. If something's going on in your life, because everyone has things going on, you can submit, hey, I need to drop my hours down to part-time. I need to go on family leave. Like, the benefits are exceptional, amazing, some of the best benefits I've ever seen in my life. And I think it's because you're held accountable in a way that other jobs don't. You're not allowed to have off weeks. Like, that's not a thing in sales, you guys. In real sales, you have a very little base pay and everything comes from your commission, and you're held accountable to that. So in a situation like that, there's a lot of options. You can go on PTO to try to get your stuff together. You can go on FMLA to get your stuff together. Like, you have a lot of options. So when it does come down to letting someone go, like, everything has been checked out, everything. And it's not a surprise,
Yeah.
but it still sucks. I
You're
still don't wanna be the one to do it, so,
yeah, you're failing,
yeah, I would
basically.
rather just sell myself. But yeah, going back to what we were talking about, I just think that everyone should be very careful, and I'm saying this in a way that I'm trying to suggest people to look at these cases, because what makes me worried, right, is that we as people, myself included, it happens to me all the time. Uh, I look at a story or video or case, and I get caught up with my feelings because I find some kind of relation to the story or to the victim or to the victim's family. And it causes me to want to look at the case from a subjective point of view, therefore missing the objective information, because I feel for the people that are impacted by this case, I want to find a suspect. I want someone to be to blame because I feel sad or I feel angry that it happened to this person. So I just need somebody there to be able to, like, be the blame for my own comfort. You know what I mean? And it happens to me all the time. And I constantly have to check myself in those situations and take a step back and ask myself, like, am I looking at this the right way? Have I checked all the boxes? Have I looked for every problem? Have I looked for issues in the story? Are things not making sense? Have I dissected it enough? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good point because humans, we fall victim to our own comforts a lot of times. A lot. And I'm one of the worst at it, to be honest, where if I'm not comfortable, I fall victim to that. I want to find that comfortable spot. And it's partly the way I was raised. It just is the way it is. And I think a lot of us do that without even thinking about it. But with Kohberger being the guy, that is comfortable for people. You know what I mean? Even though it's awful and it's a tragedy, him being the guy is what is comfortable
It is comfortable to
because
have someone to blame.
you have somebody to blame.
I know.
You can put all the blame on them and he's going to be hung out to dry. He's going to face a firing squad. They will get justice. He will die. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
And that comes full circle to literally what we talked about in the very
it
beginning of
is. It
this.
does.
I
But
know.
it's about comfort because questioning the cops, questioning the narrative, questioning if this killer is still out there or if there's more killers, the possibility of the victims not getting justice, the possibility of never knowing what happened in that house that night, not knowing what happened. That is so uncomfortable.
I agree. It's uncomfortable.
We
This
need to
is
know the why. We need to know what happened. We need somebody to blame. And Kohberger not being the guy takes all of that away to where we don't know anything. We don't know who it was or who we can blame, and we don't know why it happened.
it makes us unsafe
Yes.
because we don't know who the suspect is. We don't know where the suspect is. We don't know what the suspect is doing and when.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons it makes people uncomfortable
I
and not
agree.
being able to trust your law enforcement
Uh,
or your
Agreed.
prosecutors. And, you know, Bob Mata, I was watching his video about what we talked about last night with the Delphi case, and he said something about how prosecutors will, when they need a conviction, they will do anything.
We've
He
seen
said
that.
they get down and dirty essentially. Like they will do anything to get that conviction when they need it. And this is a case where I think they need it. So it's hard to know what's true and what's not. And we really don't have much information yet. We really don't.
Yeah, yeah.
We have the bones. We don't have much meat here.
Yeah, I hear you, and I agree with you, and I agree with what Bob Mata was saying there too. It's just it's really important to be able to take steps outside of ourselves to be able to look at the case in this objective way. You know what I mean? And it's really important, in my opinion, for me to look at where the benefit lies in producing stories like this, where the benefit lies in drawing these conclusions that Bryan Kohberger could be the one who has been breaking into all these homes, says Moscow PD and Latah County looking into it. Like, you know what I mean? The benefits there. And a lot of times that helps me understand the intent, which therefore helps me understand why the information might not be true, you know what I mean? Or why it could be more true, or if there's enough evidence that's coming and or expected to prove that.
I started thinking about something else while you're talking. So like I said, I was thinking about um I was literally off in my head thinking about other things on accident.
Yeah, you're good. I'm not worried about it.
I
We
had
got a whole bunch of people listening, so you're good.
no,
I think out loud for myself.
I well, I was thinking because you said something that made me think of something and then I literally just lost all of it. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, that's a
Welcome to
good point.
ADHD.
That's a good point." And then I felt like I knew what you said and then all of it was just gone and I was like, "Wow, I don't know what I was thinking now."
Yeah.
It literally was gone like that.
Yeah. Yeah. But
I'm really trying to remember right now.
it's just interesting because a lot of people and it's interesting seeing how many people in the chat are also interested in this topic, because a lot of times these very innate human nature topics and arguments to dive into around psychology and or sociology of people and how we believe in general are not usually very popular topics, you know what I mean? Because no one likes looking at themselves for personal accountability. Like, accountability is literally probably one of the dirtiest words on the face of this earth. Everyone hates accountability, even though most people know it's a benefit. It just sucks, you know. But uh, it's interesting how many people want to look into it, because I think overall it creates a situation where we are going to progress our overall knowledge and understanding of any given true crime situation.
You don't think I mean, yeah, I agree with you. It is interesting. But, I think there's a lot of people that can't hear it too. And they might think, "Oh, yeah, the other side that I disagree with thinks like that, but I don't."
Maybe. I
You
don't
know?
know.
I mean, I fall into that line of thinking sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard to identify it in yourself sometimes.
I don't. I don't think I fall into that line of thinking. But what's interesting is I've had the problem in my life, my entire life, where people think I do that. I don't know if it's just because of how I present my opinion. And I don't know. I I don't think I've had issues with ego in the way that I present stuff like that, because I don't think I'm always right. And when I'm talking from the perspective of the information that I currently have in that moment, with an understanding that more information will change my opinion. Therefore, I'm never like, nothing I'm saying is
I
concrete.
don't know, you're pretty confident in your opinions. 'Cause you feel like you've worked it out a lot and you've done a lot of research, so you're very confident in your opinions, and
Yeah.
and you're a passionate speaker.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that's
But
why it's that way,
but
because it would have to take something I don't know, like,
not
it
true.
takes a lot to get you to
Not
change
true,
your
not
opinion.
true, not
It
true.
does.
No. What you're thinking is that when somebody presents subjective data to me and they give me an opinion without giving me any objective facts, then you're right. I will continue to argue the point, my subjective truth in that manner, in the same way that it's being presented to me. But like, if somebody presents me with facts,
Yeah, that's true.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
Then
true.
I'm more willing, because I really do not think that I have a singular opinion that will never change. I don't, because I just don't see things like that. I think everything in life changes. Everything.
Okay, how did we get on the topic of you? Enough about
We aren't. We're
you.
talking about opinions in general, but I can only talk about me and you can only talk about you. But we can move on.
Okay. This turned very philosophical or
Yeah,
something.
I
I
have a
don't
hard
know.
time not going philosophical. I think somebody asked, like, how much I talk during the day. So when I'm talking on here, you guys are just hearing my thoughts.
Oh, Cheyenne said he's hard to read because he has a resting pouting face.
For sure.
Yeah, that's true. New drinking game. Take a shot every time Brendan says objective or subjective.
Yeah.
You got to put that on the screen. I can't do it from over here because you took away my mouse.
Is it showing?
I don't know. There's a delay. Open the screen.
Oh, it's showing. Yeah. That would be good. That would be really good, especially since we are
No, it wouldn't
late
be good.
streamers. Yeah, it is. For people that are watching, absolutely. Why wouldn't that be good? we're constantly talking about topics that every single thing about it is going to have a subjective or objective approach when it comes to criminal or justice law. You know what I mean?
You say subjective like every other sentence, though.
Of course. Yeah. It's important when you're determining someone's fate to be able to define the difference between a
We're talking about a drinking game.
yeah, what about it?
Okay, you're just confusing me.
We're talking about the potential of a drinking game, and you're saying, like, I say these things this much, and
Too
I'm
much.
explaining why it is needed in a situation where you're explaining it, because
Okay.
that alters the outcome of the topic that you're talking about. Because subjective is non-concrete, while objective is concrete.
You just turned the conversation away from the drinking game.
No, I didn't. You asked me, you made a statement.
Yeah, I'm saying that's not good because you say it too much and people are gonna get wasted and pass out
That's
or throw up.
great.
No.
Yes. It depends on if you're no, I am not an expert. Every time I say I'm an expert, I really don't like it. Especially in the industry I'm in, because of I am in the quickest evolving industry there is, period.
Right,
There is not another.
I am worried about your sobriety, exactly. I'm concerned. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Missify?
Yes. Yes, yes. Yeah, I wonder
It's
if
my favorite part too, though, is when we get deep into conversation.
I wonder if I've wondered if they're gonna have any identifying markers into Bryan Kohberger's car. I think that however that picture got out was
What picture?
the worst picture that could have been
Oh, the
released.
gas station picture?
Mhm.
I don't even think that's his car.
I have no idea. I just know that if you're a police officer and you're bringing a case to the prosecutor and you're telling the prosecutor that, yo, we can tell you the exact route that this car went, and then you're giving no evidence that the car is without a doubt 100% this person's car. um oh man, like,
It's a problem.
I'm
But
embarrassed right now thinking about it
yeah.
for those people.
Yeah. But that picture of that car wasn't released by the police. It was released by the media who got it from the gas station clerk or whatever, or owner or whatever. Supposedly. It wasn't supposedly released by any authority.
I mean, if you say so. That's just interesting that, they took all the footage from all the other supposed cameras, but then they accidentally left that footage there. I don't know, man. I don't know. Look, I just have a very interesting way of looking at the case when it comes to trial by media. I think it happens all the time. All the time it happens. So it's not shocking to me that trial by media is going on here. However, there's just no way to prove it. And I want to be very clear about that. And thank you, Ian, for the super chat. I don't know if I actually said thank you because we got on the conversation of drinking
Because you're being
games.
so confusing. But yes, thank you, Ian.
Yeah, I'm always confusing. That's just me thinking out loud. But
You expect me to follow your thought patterns when they don't make sense because I'm not in your head.
ADHD problems.
I'm pretty sure I have ADD too, just not like yours.
Yeah, there's actually 6 or 8 different types.
7.
There's okay, well, I said 6 or 8, so I'm close. So there's according to, depending on what expert you're talking to, there's between 6 or 8 different types of ADHD,
7.
and they all, no, that's not true. It depends on what expert you're talking to, because one of the categories are considered 2 different types depending on what expert you're talking to. But there are between 6 and 8 different types of ADHD, and they are very, 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 very different from each other. There's it's really like 4 and 4. So these 4 are kind of close to each other, and these 4 are kind of close to each other in the way that they present themselves. 4 of them show themselves in more physical aspects, and the other 4 show themselves in more like mental anguish. Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine's mental anguish.
Yeah, mine is.
I don't think I have any of the physical things.
I have some physical things. I definitely use my hands a lot to be able to help me, uh, think and move my body a lot when I'm talking and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't think you should trust any expert. I don't think trusting anyone is, like, a great idea, you guys. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean, like, look, what if every human in the world walked around not having any expectations of people believing them and trusted but verified everyone? So we are all equally holding each other accountable and verifying each other, and in a non-aggressive, supportive way. I think a lot of things would be a lot better. I really do. I think a lot of people, can get offended when they're corrected by people, like somebody's holding like social accountability or group accountability, peer accountability or whatever. But it doesn't have to be that bad, you know? I don't know. I don't know. We're going deep again here.
Yeah, but I mean, I just don't think that living that way and, approaching information that way and people that way, I don't think that takes away anything from somebody's experience and title. You know what I mean?
Yeah, their work product takes away
Right.
their experience and title. Not that I'm checking on their work product. Everyone should check on their work product. What you find a lot of experts fall into is like, how dare you check my work product? I have 15 years experience and this is why I'm right. You know what I mean?
Is ADHD considered a mental illness? I thought it was a behavioral disorder or something. I don't think
Learning
it's not a
disorder?
yeah, I don't think it's a mental illness. Like,
Gosh, I don't know.
I think it's something else. Maybe
We're
it is considered a mental illness, I don't know.
we're really like not very far into our evolution and understanding of mental illness in general when it comes to like addiction, ADHD, any of those things. So there is
I'll be right back.
sure, there is a
Oh my
lot
gosh.
of leeway in that. So yeah. No, that's awesome. I saw that we had some people in here that were part of creating the internet. That's incredible. That is absolutely incredible. And I always say this all the time that if you understand the binary, right? The binary code that was used to literally create the internet in general, then honestly you understand technology today. You do. Everything is still written binary. It's just we've created enough binary programs that you don't have to write every program from binary code. You can now upload a program that is pre-written the binary code, so you can just put in the characteristics and traits or whatever it's called to set up the program and page to reflect what you want. The white stripes. I reached out to the white stripes for our entrance video, our opening video or whatever. They shot me down. They shot me down. They were husband and wife, but not once they were a band. Oh, are you talking about me? Yeah, we are not husband and wife. Yeah, I just talk all day. Yeah. My talking is my thinking. I just have two buttons. I can either talk my thoughts or turn them off. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's important. I think a lot of people get offended with the expert talk, and I probably didn't present it in the best way that I could have presented it, talking about you're only as good as your work product. Let's be real. When it comes to any profession that is judged and graded by peers or the public, or is used in a way that holds the public accountable, like the justice system, then you're only as good as your work product. So it, I don't know. I'm always skeptical bringing it up, but at the same time, I am also simultaneously looking at it from the perspective that, like, people's lives depend on a lot of these experts' opinions. So, if it's not up to par, if it's not on point, if it's not the expert type work we expect to see from an expert, then somebody should call it out, because now somebody else is becoming a victim just because that expert might be too egotistical to allow somebody to check their work product. It doesn't sound fair, it's not logical, and, I feel like we could just do a lot better. We could do a lot better for our citizens and our people, and that stuff is important to me. I think, people in general are the most important thing, so if we're doing something that is harming an individual or potentially harming multiple individuals, then it should be stated in general, and, while we know that character assassination happens all the time in a multitude of different cases and trials in court, it's not necessarily right. It's just one of those topics that, even though it's not right, you're not going to be able to find proof of it happening. You just won't. There will not be any proof of it happening unless some kind of whistleblower or whatever came out, which isn't likely going to happen. And two, it's not going to stop. You're not going to stop it. It's too successful, and there's very little evidence or proof that it's happening. And it works. It works. So
So there's a motion to transfer, right?
yeah, that we didn't read last time, that we can read. We meant to read it last night, but we got
Yeah, except Brendan doesn't drink beer because he's diabetic. You could drink vodka with him.
man, you guys know about my past.
Hmm?
I'm the wild one, always looking for, like, the next adrenaline shot, the next shot of adrenaline. So when I drink, I can get in trouble. I want to do something, spontaneous, like ride a bike off a roof or something. I don't know. That usually is what happens.
Usually that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, vodka's my drink. That's my go-to. It works the best with my diabetes.
Diabetes. That's what my grandma calls it.
Interesting. All right, so let's get through this here. Which we should have and meant to read yesterday, but sorry about that, guys. Yeah, I don't really drink either because of my diabetes. All right, here we go. In the District Court of the Second Judicial District of the State of Idaho, in and for the County of Latah, State of Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger. Motion for change of venue. Comes now, Bryan C. Kohberger by and through his attorneys, and hereby moves this court for a change of venue. By this motion, Bryan requests a jury pool from outside Latah County. This motion is made pursuant to the 5th, 6th, 8th, and 14th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, 1, 6, 7, 13, and 18 of the Idaho State Constitution, ICR Rules 21 and IC 19-1801. A fair and impartial jury cannot be found in Latah County owing to the extensive inflammatory pretrial publicity, allegations made about Mr. Kohberger to the public by media that will be inadmissible at his trial. The small size of the community, the salacious nature of the alleged crimes, and the severity of the charges Mr. Kohberger faces. Enlarging the jury pool will not do anything to overcome that pervasive, prejudicial publicity because Latah County does not have a large enough population center to avoid the bias in the community. Further, the size of the community and interconnectedness of its citizenry is problematic and will prevent a fair and impartial pool of potential jurors. Mr. Kohberger, by and through his counsel, requests an opportunity to be heard through evidentiary presentation and argument no sooner than the end of April 2024. Interesting.
Go back up.
Where?
So, allegations made about Mr. Kohberger to the public by media that will be inadmissible at his trial, like exactly what we've been talking about this whole time.
Yeah, literally what we're talking about right now. And the fact that
that is the argument I made when they said that they needed to move it. Is I saw a lot of people saying, look, this isn't going to change anything. This case is nationwide, but I disagree. And it's that one statement right there where it says the size of the community and interconnectedness of its citizens is problematic. That is what I thought the main issue was, is that everybody in this town is connected. Not everyone, but most people are connected to the university somehow. They have family that works there. They do work there. They have a student that goes there. You know, they went there, are alumni. Like, they are connected in some way. This university supports the entire town. It is the interconnectedness that is the issue.
Yeah. I think potentially. I think that there are some factors that are causing that concerning interconnectedness. Here, I'm gonna make it back again. Everyone likes it bigger. So I think that there's something that is the most important thing that is left out of here, like the most important thing.
What?
There is monetary benefit. There are financial gains in Bryan Kohberger being this suspect and being convicted. Those financial gains are all through the college. Over 50% of the people in this area are employed by the college. Therefore, there could be at risk of layoffs or a reduction of staff if that college in general is impacted. That monetary affectedness of the area and all the citizens in the area is the biggest, most concerning bias that I see here. the most concerning. Does anyone that has a family want to risk their family at home?
Well, also, you're right. That is a big issue. And yeah, I see your point, but that's my whole point with the
Yeah,
interconnectedness.
I agree.
And then
That's why those
CH
connected.
actually just made a good point. Imagine being the juror who goes against the rest. Like, how are people going to feel about you in the community
Yeah,
if you think
I
that
don't
he's
think
not
most
guilty?
people are, jerks like me that would do it anyway, but, no, but really, I
No,
think that's
people have
really
an innate
crappy. I
nature.
really do.
Most people have an innate nature to want to be accepted
Well,
by their
yeah, of
peers.
course.
That
We're
is
pack people.
natural.
I know. I said that jokingly. Humans in general are pack animals. So yes, I agree with you. And I'm not worried about the fact that somebody could not agree with the rest of the jurors. I'm worried about what they believe could happen after the trial when people start talking.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
that's the point.
And but I think the biggest argument that the defense could have made is the monetary issues, the connectedness of the college in that area, and the financial benefit and gain for Bryan Kohberger being guilty, and how that would assist in everybody's college employed lives getting back to normal without having layoffs or reductions in school staff.
Absolutely.
I think it w I don't know what's gonna be the outcome of this. This one for me is a 50-50 toss-up. I don't think that Judge can turn down the 2025, um, the 2025 trial date. I just don't think that
Mm.
I don't think he can turn that down. But this one, I think I think it's more 50-50 that it could be turned down.
Oh, I think this is more I don't think this is 50-50.
I When I say 50-50, I'm meaning I don't know what direction it could go. It could go either way.
Well, the thing is if they transfer
They
it
want the benefit of the money that's gonna come in from this trial too.
if they transfer it, then the 2025 summer date doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't impact the university anymore. So it doesn't have to be during summer.
Mhm. Yep.
So I don't know. I think ruling on this matters first before even deciding when the trial's gonna be.
I hear you. I get it, but both of these have been put out recently, and I feel more confident in the judge granting the 2025 trial than I do in my confidence of him granting this.
What, they asked for jurors or a venue? I don't think they're asking for more jurors.
No, 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 no. They're saying that that would not work. They did say that okay, so
What?
this was submitted and they were trying to cover all their bases. They said that in other cases what they can do is they can widen the jury
The
pool, meaning they
radius.
will pull from other cities and towns or whatever in other areas. And they said already in this that that wouldn't work. So,
Yeah, they said enlarging the jury pool will not uh, do anything to overcome the pervasive prejudicial publicity because
absolutely.
Latah County does not have a large enough population center to avoid the bias in the community.
I think the change of venue is totally reasonable, and I am
Yeah.
actually surprised that it didn't happen already.
This is a change for venue, and they have not asked before this. This is the first time.
I think that I think that a smart way for a defense attorney to go about this is to push and push and push to see what you can get to go in the way that you want it to go. When something stops going in the way that you want it to go, then submit for a change of venue. That's a smart way of managing it. So maybe we're seeing a little bit of that going on here. I'm not really sure. But I think it's completely fair. Totally fair. 100% fair. And I think they have enough evidence if this gets turned down to push back. They have enough evidence between the multitude of books that have come out, the multiple statements that have been made, the fact that all of these things are happening in such a small community. How many different people do each of those people that have put out books, that have put out articles, that have put out YouTube videos, that have put out whatever, it doesn't matter, anything, right? How many people do those people impact? And each of those things have already claimed Bryan Kohberger's guilt. So while we have Coffindoffer coming out saying that, you know, I sure hope that that Delphi is going to give a fair trial. Well, she needs to be coming out asking that in this case too, because real justice is when the defendant is handled correctly, is when they're proven guilty. Otherwise, the families might think that this is going to give them some kind of resolution. But can you imagine being one of those family members and potentially executing the wrong person, and years down the road, um,
Finding out.
It's not the right person? Now you have an actual body on your conscience? Whew. That is rough. That's rough, in my opinion.
Yeah, it would be.
Yep.
It would be. But I think this is necessary, obviously. I mean, of course, they can't get away from the media presence and all of the crazy coverage this case has had. But I think that when it's in such a tiny community, you can't help but have people that are going to be invested, you know, or people who have heard things. There's just no way around it. I've lived in small towns before and everybody knows everything. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like
I
everybody
mean, I've never really
talks.
lived in a small town, but I get it.
Yeah, there's nothing like a small town. There really isn't.
I've lived in, like, every major metro city except, like, a couple. So one thing that we did just do, you guys, and I just want to give this explanation every time that we post it, is we posted our Discord link. That Discord link is an invite. You can't join our Discord without that invite link specifically. That invite link is free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can hop in there. You can join the Discord. It will never cost anything. And you can join in the conversation in there. Plus, you get alerts, things like that. It's pretty awesome. It is pretty awesome. And but yeah, this change of venue, I think it's the only option, in my opinion, to give a fair trial. It's going to be a major point of contention, absolutely. um I wonder if it's going to get denied the first time, and there's going to have to be some kind of additional evidence brought forward or whatever,
Well,
you know.
Annie Peterson in the chat was saying that she does this for a living. I'm assuming that means you're a lawyer or involved in the court process somehow. She said what they're asking for is having jurors flown in or a change of venue. And she said a lot of people haven't realized that, like, they don't understand what it's asking for.
It says enlarging the jury pool will not do anything
Yeah,
to
but they're talking
overcome
about
that
just in Latah
pervasive
County.
prejudicial publicity, because Latah County does not have a large enough population to center to avoid the bias in the community. Further, the size of the community and interconnectedness of its citizenry is problematic. Okay, so that must be an option, because it doesn't look like they specifically requested that they be
Go back
flown
up.
in, but so I can't remember a case where they've ever
Well,
flown jurors in, but that I get it. That
hold on.
makes sense. That would be
So for one, we're not pulling up the rules because it cites a bunch of go back, stay up on the first
Yeah,
page.
what about it?
It says by this motion, Bryan requests a jury pool from outside Latah County.
Yeah.
This motion is made pursuant and it gives all those things. So maybe a jury pool outside, that would make sense. They're leaving it general and then they're citing a bunch of codes. Maybe there's something in there that talks about the jury pool being flown in. Because we don't know those codes off the top of our head, obviously.
I'm
That
sure.
is a veneer? Is that what you call it? Veneer?
Yeah, I think that either of those would be fine. I don't think it matters.
I'm wondering, does it cost more to change the venue and have the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense go to that venue? Or does it cost more to fly jurors in and put them up in a hotel and pay for everything? Like, I was so curious, what costs more?
I don't know. I don't think it would matter at this point with how much money that has been dumped into this. I think that they should do whatever's the most convenient personally. Whatever's going to be easiest for the prosecution and the defense to not hinder the length of this case any longer. So,
Probably flying in the jury is probably the most convenient.
is it? Is it really with the restrictions that having to be during summer? I mean, they're going to be hurrying to get this case done.
I bet
That's kind of a messed up situation.
yeah, and it would suck to be sequestered for 12 weeks because I almost guarantee they'll be sequestered with how big this case is. I almost guarantee it.
I just think it's messed up to already put like these bounds on this case that, oh, well, it needs to be done between this time and this time and it can only last this long. Dude, get out of here. What do you mean? Are you kidding me? Our justice system and our rights as suspects, defendants, citizens in general should be one of the most important things. You know, that's our justice system in our country is literally the reason why we have all these colleges and the learning and growing and education and everything that we do. So it's just really strange. The whole thing feels really strange to me that it's like an afterthought, you know?
No, you're not being a pest, Annie. Don't worry about that. You're giving knowledge. It's okay.
Yeah, we don't ever think people are pests. You're not a pest.
No, of course not.
Not at all.
Appreciate you explaining.
Yeah, you don't worry about that. Your knowledge is really important, and I promise there's not anything you could say that would pester me. Only Malia, everything pesters her.
No, just you pester me. He is the pest. None of you, just him. Sending Annie some fingernail clippers. It's funny. She said she can't type in her long nails and it's hard to explain.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Clearly, they are a set of nails and you don't want to clip those.
Yeah.
Those things are expensive.
I'd just use a chainsaw or something.
You know who really needed a chainsaw? That person in the Guinness Book of World Records that had the longest nails. You would literally need a chainsaw for them things.
Ugh, those are gross though. Those
Yeah.
like very discolored and yeah.
Very curly, like curly fries.
Yeah, that's gross.
Sorry.
Gross. But yeah, I think I don't see there being any reason why flying jury members in is not okay. It seems completely okay. You know, I think that the problem is the people there. The problem is the monetary connections to the community. The problem is the gossiping, the interconnectedness, as they said. So
yeah, that's what I said. Oh yeah, the true crime community should be the jurors.
Oh gosh.
That wouldn't go well.
No.
You would have an all-out fight in the jury room during
there doesn't need to be any more reasons for the mainstream media to cause all these problems and then blame it on like the true
Content
crime
creators.
community, you know.
Yeah.
Let me say all these horrible things, and then when our citizens start believing it, we're gonna blame it on that person over there.
Wouldn't that be
Come
funny though
on.
if they picked all content creators? Like
They would never. They would never.
that should be a reality TV show. Just content creators that are true crime content creators picked at random from the community to be a part of a mock trial. And it's like a game show. That would be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, you guys, that is the show tonight. And we appreciate
Well, don't
all
tell
of
anybody about
you.
my idea. It's a secret.
Yeah, I
If you
don't know
tell
what the
anyone,
idea
if
is,
you
but
tell
that,
anyone, I will know it's you.
yes, absolutely. But that is the show tonight, everybody. I'm gonna post our Discord one more time for you, just because we have quite a few people in there, and it's literally more every day. I think we have a couple hundred or something. I meant to look and I didn't.
Dang it, Tom.
But hop on in there and come hang out, and check out all of our social media. We're literally on everything. We are on Instagram with some hundreds, on Twitter hundreds. We're rolling everywhere, and in everything we are / Thought Riot Podcast, except for Twitter. We are at / Thought Riot Pod, POD, and we're on Reddit, Patreon, X, Instagram, everything. And we are on all podcast platforms, literally all of them. We are continuing to climb in those countries where we're top 5. Our views are going up and up and up and up. I actually think we have like 20% more this month, which is the biggest jump that we've had yet in the last 30 days. So that's all for you guys being Thought Rioters, and let's just keep doing what we're doing, because we're getting a whole bunch of knowledge out there, and I think that's incredible, because what's one mind versus 100? What's one mind versus uh 10,000, one mind versus 100,000, there is worth in us looking into these things and looking into them together and figuring these things out. So, what's one expert when you're up against Thought Riot Podcast? Bam. Are you brave enough to think?
Yeah. I just want to say, Kane, you probably got kicked out of Idaho for wearing plastic pants and impersonating a judge. Makes sense. All right, thank you guys for being here. We'll see you Sunday, right? Yeah, today's Thursday. Sunday, 9 p.m. Central Time. Until then, have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you then.
All right. See you later.
Bye.